What? I'm excited and this is the only way I can cope. Plus I haven't had a fapping joke in a while. Leave me alone. Leave!
Daddy, help me. Daddy, where are you?
Cheryl!
So we're back with the sequel of Condemned, a game with oodles of potential. Now with most games, I expect improvement from the first game to the next. And hey, would you look at that? I got it. Sometimes though, fixing the overt problems can leave some details forgotten. The first game had a lot going for it. It was atmospheric, it was original, and had combat that was only a few steps away from being fun as fuck. The second game is kind of a mixed bag as much as I wanted to instantly love it. Condemned 2, Bloodshot was released March 11th, 2008 for the 360 and March 18th for the PS3 in the same year, of course. No PC port this time, which just pisses me off, but that's fucking life. So I by no means think the game is not good. It's fucking great, but has small things that just annoy the hell out of me. Most things have improved for the better though. Graphics, gameplay, story all get a significant boost. One minor annoyance was a tonal shift in the heart of the game. It seemed to have shedded its more grounded in reality thriller roots for more of an action supernatural thing. Obviously the first game had supernatural elements to it, but it was a bit less prominent. This game seems to delve far into the whole supernatural craze. 1 second I'm punching black slime things, next we're talking about some Oro cult that whispers to everyone, to dudes with holes in their faces. Oh. The first game, despite its supernatural elements, felt so grounded in reality. These gritty streets with these vagrants and criminals. This game does have its grittiness, but feels more, hyper-realistic for lack of a better word. This is all anecdotal, but it's just how I felt when playing the game. Despite this minor tonal shift, the game does most things right. The combat in the first game was something I found issues with, but had a lot of potential. This time the combat gets a huge upgrade. There's much more depth added to the combat that makes it that much better. There are combos, the triggers are assigned to an individual arm, the kicks have 3 levels of height. Instead of that one solid swing, you can actually chain attacks together, and the more tricky a combo is to pull off, the higher score you'll get. We'll talk about the scoring in just a moment though. The kick height is actually dependent on where your view is fixed. Looking towards the ground, you do a stomp, while looking higher up lets you do the manliest kick, a fucking roundhouse.
You think anybody wants a roundhouse kick to the face while I'm wearing these bad boys? Forget about it.
They finally decided to split up the triggers to each arm, but now counters feel a bit clumsy at times. To block a counter, you press LT and RT at the same time, which most of the time is fine, but other attacks also use those two to do shit, which causes the game to shit its pants. Other than that, this is a pretty good control scheme. Another thing they added that I loved was being able to use your fucking fists. I forgot to mention it in the first game, but you either had to have a weapon or you were defenseless. Now you're full out fisticuffing every nigga in sight. It feels so good fist fighting in this game. Now here's something that could just be me, but a lot of the time the combat was a lot more frustrating this time around. Of course I could always get good, but even with these improvements it didn't feel that much better. Granted I played on hard right away cause I'm that cocksucker, but holy shit, this was really difficult at times. Enemy attacks are so fucking random, and on hard you can rarely interrupt their attack animations, which drove me fucking nuts. If I hit some fuck in the face before he hits my face, he should stumble back! It is literally Dark Souls level of combat. It's pretty slow, but methodical. I kinda wish they would have sped it up still. It's about the same pace as the first game, but with just more depth. Also, the enemies seem to sprout from nowhere. There are almost no audio cues at all. One moment I'm fighting this fucker, the next I'm taking on damage full force without even knowing where it came from. The game lacks a damage direction indicator. Another thing I adored about the first game was those full-out brawls, and in this case they did one of the things I wanted, by making them more frequent. Unlike the first game where the AI actually seemed to focus on any target that was near them, this time they almost always focus on Ethan. This shit felt unfair so often when I'm just getting fucking gang raped, having my health drained in seconds because I'm literally surrounded. The gunplay is better. They actually added the iron sights, which was nice. You still have to check your ammo manually, which is cool, but feels out of place with this much heavier emphasis on the ranged combat. And that's really my only problem with the gunplay, there's just too much. Another thing I noticed was the fucking depth perception. I know a lot of people have issues with first person depth perception, and usually I'm pretty good at getting a feel for it in most games, but this one felt super inconsistent. Sometimes weapons would reach no problem. Other times I could be right on their shit and it didn't register. There were times where the weapon wouldn't reach what my fucking fist would? What is up with this horse shit? Enemies somehow hit me during a part of their animation in which there was no way in fucking hell whatever they were doing could cause a bubble to fucking burst, let alone kill me. I feel like I'm ragging on the combat a lot. It's good, just a bit disappointing. It fixes most of the problems with the first game, but fucks up the small details like speed and hit detection. You might not agree, but I felt it was sloppy at times. It's better than the first, mainly because it's more involving. I wanted to love it, but these small things were just frustrating. I guess the moral of the story is just don't play this game on hard. The enemy attacks are seemingly less erratic on normal and fits with the combat better. Besides the combat, how's everything else? Oh baby, take a seat and let me tell you. It's real good. The enemies are better, they all look cool enough and still fit in with the aesthetic of the previous game. The biggest improvements are the story and the investigative segments. The story is far more supernatural heavy this time around. Continuing like some amount of time after the first game, Ethan makes his return looking 100% different, taking inspiration from Naruto with these bitchin' hand wraps. Oh yeah. Looking like a real meth addict these days, Ethan is now a washed up alcoholic. The SCU find Ethan to help out with this ever increasing disruption in crime. Shit happens, turns out a lot of people who are empowered are part of this ancient cult called the Oro. This cult uses these like sonic devices that are the cause of those melting bird brains and angry vagrants. Ethan is betrayed by the squad leader Dorlan, who is an eminent cult member. So after being betrayed by the SCU, he, again, has to go Lone Ranger with the aid of Rosa, who also looks 100% different. You meet up with the serial killer from the first game called Serial Killer X, who helps you escape Dorlan's grasp. All this leads up to this Half-Life 2 looking climax where Ethan fucks Dorlan up, learns that these people in power are part of the Oro, and the game ends on a shitty note of just the president being interviewed, hinting that he's part of the cult. After the credits, which I skipped initially, you fucking cocksucker, Serial Killer X is shown to be getting mouth implants resembling the hatred from the first game. The ending was a bit unsatisfying, but as a whole, the story felt much more involved and easier to follow. The story across these two games is really interesting when looked at together. Cults are such a fascinating topic. When anything involves it, I tend to have a soft spot for them. I mean, really, this is a very Illuminati concept, just done with more supernatural elements, and it works. So after beating the game, you unlock FPS mode, which is just the codization of the game. This is a weird option, but it's cool, I guess. There is a multiplayer which I didn't end up playing this time, but back when I did, I remember it being pretty cool. Kinda wish they would have just put the effort toward the campaign, but it's a nice feature to extend the game's durability. There is like a challenge mode that is pretty fun for a while. Actually, it's really fun. I think this Fight Club edition was a really good idea. The story, as a whole, was pretty good, and there are a lot of reasons to go back and play the game again and again. Mix that with the Fight Club and multiplayer and you have a pretty replayable game. They really max out the replay value for the most part here. So coming full circle, one reason the game is so replayable is the addition of an upgrade system. So how do you unlock these upgrades? by getting a high score, finding the hidden sonic emitters, investigating properly, and discovering the TV and radio broadcasts. You can earn a bronze to gold rating, which each one increases the benefits you earn directly related to how well you play. Something I've been saving for the end were how fucking awesome the investigative parts are. The first game had a great idea of using these fancy tools during your investigation to push the game forward, but held your hand too much. Well, they wised up and made you the detective. You have to pull out the appropriate tool, study the scene, and report what happened, determining how the blood spatter occurred, whether it was an entrance or exit wound, who the victim was, and just so many other things. This is what I'm fucking talking about. You study the scene, you answer the questions, you do the detective work. You can be totally wrong too, which leads back to affecting your score. Man, this was such a good change. My excitement level when realizing you actually had to do the work was like a fucking 9. It was easily my favorite enhancement about the game. Now while there is a tonal shift, the game still has pretty good atmosphere. Everything is still dingy and gross looking. The abandoned doll factory was the highlight of the game. It again looks realistically abandoned and really creepy. You even go back and revisit the school from the first game, which was pretty cool. The graphics look really damn good, with a bit better performance, I think. I mean, the game hits almost 60 frames a second way more often, but still has mad drops. As for ports, I don't think either are very different, if at all. No PC port though! I really wanted to love this game, but these small annoyances kept me from doing so. It's definitely technically better speaking, but just feels a lot less paramount. The first game was a massive trendsetter and felt so fresh and exciting. This game was just overshadowed by its older brother. Everyone will reference and suck Condemned Criminal Origins cock, but almost no one, and I mean no one, talks about this game. It's not that it's even a bad game either, it's pretty damn good, but just forgettable. The most memorable part was being chased by a bear. A fucking rabid bear. Still good though. The first game had a lot of memorable moments, but this one, not so much. Its major problem was just falling into the trap of needing multiplayer in the COD craze. The gunplay, which is still good, is just too prominent now. Now, they're both good games, but which one do I prefer? I'm leaning towards the first at the moment, just because I like the overall vibe more. You know what's really sad though, is we're most likely not going to see Condemned 3. And I'd really like to see Condemned 3. Fuck the multiplayer, nail the combat, finish the story. And could you imagine this on this gen? That'd be fucking awesome! Come on, Monolith, use some of that Shadow Mordor cash, you know what I'm saying? Alright, we're getting off track. Conclusion. Game is good. Play it if you like the first. Game is again dirt cheap. Totes worth it. So until next time, we're getting to a fucking classic. I hope you're ready for the good lights. Eat!